Hi there everybody, thanks for joining me. My name's Dave. Today I'm going to do about solar panels, making a choice between the different ones. I know we've done solar before, but this is a little bit different. I'm not doing a brake pad replacement because I only had today. I had to take my daughter to a meeting, to an appointment, and tomorrow I'm at the hospital at 1:30, so I'm not going to be able to do my brake pads this week. I'll have to do them next week. I'm sorry about that, guys. Not a lot really I can do about it. It's out of my control. I'm going to talk about solar panels here, the differences between solar panels and why you would choose a certain panel over another one. Please, 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 if you want to read the document, it'll be on the Patreon page. If you want to become a Patreon, please click the link below. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee, it helps with the channel. Otherwise, please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, and if you do, I'll thank you very much. And let's get on with the solar panel video. This could get lengthy. Please bear with me. I'm going to look at the screen again, reading from what I've written. So why do we use solar panels? The question is really, do I need a solar panel? For the average user with just a four-wheel drive or an SUV, a fridge and some lights to run, you won't be able to stay in one spot for more than a couple of days on average temperature without getting power from somewhere. So the answer is yes. Well, maybe. A lot of people want to do low-cost camping and charge their battery at home before leaving. I tend to think that that's too limiting. So what do you do to stay camping a little bit longer than 2 or 3 days? Just because your fridge and your lights still run after 3 or 4 days doesn't mean to say what you're doing is a good idea. Because unless you have lithium batteries, and you should, you're looking to drop your AGM battery below 50%, and that is going to reduce its life expectancy considerably. I've talked about this in a previous video. What this does mean is that ideally you are using the solar power to keep your battery topped up, rather than charging it once discharged, which is not good for longevity of your battery. And solar power is free. Well, it is once you've bought the equipment. So whether you charge your AGM, gel or lithium batteries, the difference only really lies with the solar controller. If you purchase a lithium capable controller, it will usually charge all the other battery types. But if you have had a setup for a while, skimped out or did not listen to the salesman, you may need to go back and buy a newer controller that is lithium compatible. If you move to lithium batteries, and you should. It takes a lot of solar power to keep up with what your alternator can do. You only need enough solar to keep up with whatever power you're consuming. And for most four-wheel drives, a 110 and 160 watt panel is usually more than enough. But not always. Let me explain. All campers should know what their fridge, lights and other powered items are using, what power they require. For example, a lot of fridges will use 3 amps, 4 amps, 5 amps. The latest ones we have at work use 1 amp. The more modern your fridge, the less it'll use, to be fair. If you don't know what they use, you should find out. Because the power all your devices draw is the figure you need to be able to work out so you know how much solar is required. For example, I have 2 fridges. My 75 litre dual zone draws around 3 amps. I have LED lights, they draw about 1 amp. And I have a centre console fridge which also draws about 3 amps. It isn't as clear cut as saying I draw 7 amps although the fridges are on all the time. It depends how often I access them and to whether they draw more power than 6 amps. And it depends a lot on what the ambient temperature is like and whether my fridges have covers or not. So there's a lot of variables. You can't really just ask how long will my fridge last if I use it on this battery, because it's like asking how long is a piece of string. Also, I don't use the LED lights during the daytime. So unless you have a plug-in meter that can measure the current draw, you have to make a calculated guess. In my case, I require approximately 7 amps per hour on most days, and I have 2 fridges with me. Okay, so some problems that we have with solar power and camping. Dull days are our biggest issue. If you have, say, 5 dull days in a row, and this is a very real possibility in Victoria, you may not be putting enough power back into the battery. For example, my 200 watt solar blanket produces 14 amps at its very best. On a dull day, it's down to 2 to 4 amps at best. Also, solar has an inherent issue. It's useless at night time, when you often need power the most. Therefore, you need to maximize solar through the day, especially if you're camping in one place for several days. Solar panels use light to create power. However, the sun is where we get all of our light. Direct sunlight heats up the panel and makes it less efficient. So there's a catch-22 happening here. The more sun means more power, but the sun brings heat, which reduces efficiency and reduces power. In fact, as the temperature of the solar panel increases, its output current increases exponentially, while the voltage output is reduced linearly. In fact, a voltage reduction is so predictable that it can actually be used to measure temperature accurately. The best way to determine your panel's tolerance to heat is by looking at the manufacturer's data sheet. There you'll see a term called temperature coefficient, Pmax. This is the maximum power temperature coefficient. It tells you how much power the panel will lose when the temperature rises by 1 degree above 25 degrees. So every 1 degree above 25 degrees C, you lose power. So, choosing a panel. We've got technical enough, let's choose a panel. What types are there? Well, the choices for camping boil down to approximately 3 types, although there may be some others, 1 or 2 others, amorphous panels and things like that. So you've got fixed panels, folding panels and folding blankets. All 3 come with pros and cons, so let's get into the choices and see what's best for you. Fixed panels can be used for the same as a folding panel, but they are bulky and difficult to set up. They're difficult to maneuver and difficult to store. Fixed panels are more efficient than folding or blanket panels, and a 160 fixed panel will produce about the same output as a 200-watt blanket. The main issue is that they need to be attached to the roof or the roof rack. This means that while they work while you're driving, when you arrive at your campsite you need to park in the sun. This means that your car will heat up and the fridge will use more power than it would if it was cooler. So pros: hard to steal due to them being bolted in place. Efficiency is good, they're out of harm's way because they're on your roof rack. They're mounted to your roof rack and they get more airflow, but they can get too hot. Can be left out to get full access with the sun in the morning, but it's bolted to your roof, you're going to leave it out. The cons: required to park in the sun, hard to stow and maneuver, required to be bolted to the roof rack and take up precious space for other things. Much less efficient due to them being mounted horizontally, which is a problem in the morning when the sun is low in the sky. The light is hitting it at an angle like this, a very shallow angle, and it bounces off. You need to be directly overhead, shining straight down on it. You can't be left behind unless they're directly bolted to a trail rack and hard not to take if not required. So basically it's going with you unless you unbolt it. So the next thing is a folding panel. Now they're normally the same as fixed panels with a hinge in the centre. They also normally have legs to angle them towards the sun. They can be used as fixed panels but require additional mounts to hold the hinge part down. Most folding panels only fold in half but often come with a carry bag. And the pros are almost as efficient as a fixed panel. They're slightly less efficient due to the hinge, but more efficient due to the legs that stand them up to be angled towards the sun. They often come with a carry bag, can be left out to get the full access in the sun in the morning. The cons: heavy and bulky, difficult to carry and stow due to their size. Panels fold outwards and may not be able to have any other weight on them. And then we get to portable blankets. Often the least popular choice, mainly due to them being less efficient. However, they are easy to carry and easier to deploy than folding panels or fixed panels. Well, they're not easy to deploy than fixed panels because they're already deployed. They are made with a laminated face over the panel to strengthen them against accidental damage such as dogs or children running over them. Most blankets can be folded to the size of 1 panel for ease of storage and portability. Pros: small, easy to stow and carry, easy to deploy, a lot more durable than most panels due to lamination, can be left out to get full access to the sun in the morning. Similar problem with these though, you need something to prop them up on and you can only usually prop up half a panel. The cons are not secure, can be easy to steal, less efficient and don't work as well on dull days, harder to angle towards the sun. Blankets can be less tolerant to shadows and panels, and they can delaminate if treated roughly. Cheap versus quality and low price versus high price. Cheap and poor quality are not always combined, just as expensive and quality certainly aren't. What I say here is just my opinion and has no bearing on fact. However, if you want to pay ARB Red Arc prices, it's entirely up to you. Here are some comparisons. In the 160 folding panel area, I've got 2. ARB/Red Arc 160 watt monocrystalline folding panel, $851. King's 160 watt grade A monocrystalline folding panel, $149. You could buy 7 or 8 of those for the price of one of the Red Arc ones. The King's 160 watt grade A monocrystalline fixed panel, $108. Hardcore 170 watt A grade monocrystalline fixed panel, $229. Even though it's only 10 watts more, they're both the same, different makes, but one is over $118 more than the other one. ARB Red Ack 240 watt monocrystalline folding blanket, $1,653. King's 200 watt grade A monocrystalline folding blanket, $159. TJM projector 180 watt monocrystalline folding blanket, $1,099. DriveTech, which is Recto 200 watt monocrystalline folding blanket, $311. Hardcore 200 watt A grade monocrystalline folding blanket, $469. Hardcore Lifestyle Budget 200 watt A grade monocrystalline folding blanket, $399. Baintech monocrystalline foldable solar blanket, 350 watts, $799. KT Cable Anaconda 200 watt solar blanket, not sure what material it is, $699, or $499 if you're a member of their club. Ridge Rider Super Cheap 200 watt monocrystalline solar blanket, $499, or $379 if you're a member of their club. And KT Cable's super cheap version 200 watt solar blanket, $720. So it's a personal choice which type of panel you should use. Personally, I have two King's 200 watt blankets which I join together to double the input, mainly for duller days. I've discussed in a previous video, so I don't need to go through it again. I use blankets so that I can camp in the shade and easily store them. I can take one or two blankets depending on space and weight limit and or power requirements. I hope it helps you make a choice for your solar blanket or your panel, and I'll see you on the next video.